Hey, this is Jennifer with Make My Heart Smile, and today I'd love for you to crochet along with me. Whether you are a new viewer or a returning subscriber, welcome. If you've been following along with my lessons, my crochet lessons, you're doing great. And welcome to the tutorial all about granny squares. So real quick, let's talk about how in order to do this granny square, to crochet this granny square that I'm going to show you, you need to know your beginner basic crochet skills. So if you haven't checked out my lessons 1 through 5, go ahead and do that because you need to be familiar with those stitches in order to make this granny square. Okay, and today's focus, or today's lesson or tutorial, will be on how to make a classic granny square. Now let me show you a few things. This is the one that I'm going to make today. I'm going to show you the classic way to do it. I have a little secret. I did not learn how to make a granny square until just a few years ago, even though I have been crocheting most of my life. I made a pillow, and that's when I fell in love with the Sunburst Granny Square. And the Granny Square is considered just a classic of crochet. It's something that is beginner friendly, although it's easy level, and it's just something you can do so much with. And so beginners love to try this out. Why I didn't try a granny square before then, I don't know. But I made a pillow and really loved it. And you can sew these together to make a blanket. You could make a bag, which I plan to do with these. You could make clothing. You could make coaster sets. This is one. Both of these are from 2 different coaster sets that I've made. Or hot pads or trivets to use in the kitchen to set something hot down on. Granny squares are just really versatile for all different types of things. And this is showing a sunburst granny square. Now in future lessons I will show you the puff stitch and the cluster stitch. But for today I'm going to show you the pattern to make a classic granny square. Now if you have not seen my review on the special yarn that was used to make this granny square, go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below. But there is special yarn you can buy that gives you all the colors without having to change color as you go, if that's your wish, if you want to make a multicolored granny square, which many of them are. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. Today I'm just going to show you 3 rounds with 3 different colors. So our focus today is going to learn also how to change colors, how to change color yarn when we're working in the round. Okay, granny squares are great for learning that and practicing that. We're going to use double crochet stitches. We're going to be making a magic ring or magic circle. And we're going to be following a pattern for 4 rounds. Okay, so you can choose to have either multicolored granny square, or you can choose to have a solid color granny square. So if you only have one color yarn at home, that's fine. Believe it or not, these are both the same pattern, the pattern that I'm going to show you. This is just a thinner yarn in one color, and this obviously was 3 different colors, but this little thicker yarn. So look at the difference in just what they look like right off the bat, right? So if you just have even small scraps of yarn at home, as long as they're all the same thickness, don't get a really chunky one and then a really thin one. You want them to all be about the same thickness. And as you know, I really love using tube yarn when I'm teaching beginners. So I am using Cuddle Craft tube yarn, loops and threads from Michaels. You can find some at Hobby Lobby as well. Okay, so grab your yarn, grab your materials. As you know, we always need scissors and a darning needle for weaving in our ends, stitch markers, and of course the crochet hook. Today I'm using a tube-like yarn and 6 millimeter a letter J crochet hook. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see, let me get this out of the way. And this is the granny square I will be showing you how to make today. Of course, whatever colors you have, yours will be that color, of course. And again, if you only have one color of yarn, you can absolutely just use one color. So let's get started. I put this to the side for a moment and this to the side so we really can focus on our first round. Now, in my previous lessons, if you haven't checked those out, I have shown you how to make a magic ring or a magic circle. And there are two different ways. Now, today we're going to do the alternate way. So we're going to actually make a slip knot, put that on our hook, and we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then we're going to make a ring by slip stitching into that first chain that we made. Okay, so slip your hook through there, yarn over, and again I've shown you a slip knot in previous lessons. Pull it through the loop on the hook. Okay, so now we've made that alternate ring. Okay, so not technically a magic circle, but this is really going to hold our stitches really, really firmly. And it'll give you a little bit more to hold on to as we're working our first round. So now that we've made our slip knot through there, we're going to chain 3. Yarn over, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now we're going to be working our double crochet stitches into this ring. So I'm going to tighten up my slip knot there a little bit. This is my tail, as you know. Form is important, so make sure your left hand has a job to do, your right hand has a job to do. So there's our chain 3 to start round 1, and we're going to be working our double crochets into the magic ring, in this case our alternate magic ring, and so I'll just call it the ring. Okay, so we're going to make 2 more double crochets, and as you know, as you can see, I'm pinching my ring with my left hand to kind of keep that secure. So now I have a chain, 1 double crochet. Let's do 1 more double crochet. Okay, so now the chain counts as a stitch here. So we have 3 technically. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go back and use my stitch marker, and I'm going to put it at the top of my chain because we're counting the chain as a double crochet stitch here. And you're going to learn that granny squares use the number 3 a lot. It's a set of 3 going all the way around. It's really easy to remember. So our first round starts with a chain 3 with 2 double crochets into the ring, and now we're going to chain 2, and this leaves some space in between our groups of 3 stitches. Okay, so that actually creates our first corner. So chain 2, and now we're going to do 3 double crochets into the ring. 1, 2, 3, and you see my tail? I am kind of hugging my tail or holding my tail close to the ring so that my stitches are working over the ring, or I'm sorry, over the tail, okay, so that I won't have to weave that in later. Okay, chain 2, so looking back, we have our chain, 2 double crochets, chain 2, which makes our corner space, 3 more double crochets, and now my chain 2, which created this corner here. We're trying to make a square, remember? Okay, so kind of looks weird when we get started here, but we're creating these 4 groups of 3 double crochets with 4 corners. Okay, so as we go around, we're creating basically a square. To give you an idea, 3 double crochets into the ring over the tail. If you don't want to do that, mess with the tail, then you don't have to. That's just going to get in your way. I need to pull more yarn here. Let me just get a lot more yarn so I'm not having to pull at it every time. As you know, form and tension are important, so if you're constantly having to wrestle with your yarn, just pull some out, and that way it's just there for you. Okay, so I can clearly see my double crochet posts, right? Call this the post because it's a really tall stitch. I've got 1, 2, I need to do 1 more for 3. Okay, so I got my 3, and now I'm going to chain 2 to make that next corner. And now yarn over, let's put 3 more double crochets into the ring. 2, 3. And we can't forget about our last corner, so chain 2. Okay, now we are ready to slip stitch to join. As you know, when we work in the round, we have to join. Okay, so we're looking at it. We've got 3 corner, 3 corner, 3 corner, 3. We've made our little corner. Now we're going to slip stitch right where we put our stitch marker at the top of the chain. Now this might be a little tight. To do. And if it's too tight for you to get your hook in there, you can go to your the top of your first double crochet. Okay? And we make a slip stitch, which means we yarn over, pull through, and pull through. Okay, so we've just made our first round of a granny square. And as you can see, this tail, yep, is still sticking out a little bit, but since I've worked over it all the way through, I can try and maybe pull it a little bit tighter. But since we made a ring and it wasn't a true magic circle or magic ring, this isn't going to pull any much tighter than about there. So you're going to have a little circle space in the middle, which is fine. Okay? And so this has been worked over, but if we wanted to really secure that, we can weave this in with our darning needle. And I think because I have already worked over it several times around, I am just going to snip that off. If you have not worked over your tail as we went around, then leave it and we'll weave it in later. Okay, so now we're going to start round 2. Okay, and we're going to go around again, but we're making a square. Okay, and I told you that I was going to be changing colors and teaching you how to do that. So in order to do that, we're going to have to fasten this off. And by doing that, we just simply act like we're making a chain, but we pull it really tall, not too tall, just about the width of your hand, because we don't want our tail to be super long. And then I cut it at the end of that loop, the end of the yarn there, and then I pull out my working yarn and cinch this tight. Okay? And let's talk about weaving in, because if you leave all of your tails to the very end to weave in, look at this. It's going to be just a spaghetti mess, okay? And you're probably not going to want to have to do that at the end. You can, but these are going to get in the way, okay? So I would recommend that after each round, since we're changing color, that we stop and weave in our ends. Now, if you are not changing colors, just watch because you're not going to be cutting like I just did and fastening off and cutting it off. You're just going to keep going. So if you want to just whoop, fast forward to where I start round 2, that would be fine. But if you are changing color like I am, then let's go ahead and just weave this in real quick, and I'll show you. Just this is really good practice with weaving in on granny squares after each round. Okay, so you're getting practice with working in the round and changing colors and weaving in your ends. These are all things that are part of a lot of easy projects and on, intermediate and advanced projects as well, of course. So when I thread my darning needle, I put the yarn over the needle like that and pull it off, okay? And that creates like the perfect little width to then push through the needle. Of course, I say that and then watch it not work. Let me show you again. Kind of hold it tight, pull it off of there, and then that goes through. You can grab it. Okay, just a little tip, a little trick. You can put your yarn through there however it works for you, though. Okay. All right, so we want to just hide this tail, and we don't want it to unravel, even though we've knotted that pretty securely. We just want to go down. I would go down the post of the chain or double crochet to where we have these stitches here. Get this out of the way. You can see this. We want to go down and we want to get to these really nice thick stitches in order to hide this tail. We're just going to go around. That was 1. I count that as 1 down the post of the chain or double crochet. And then this is 2. Sometimes the tail gets stuck in there. Just pull it out. Okay. And then maybe back the 3rd time underneath those stitches. Okay. And 3 is always a good idea for weaving in. 3 times. And that little guy will not come undone. Now that we've done that, we can just snip that, and that won't be in our way as we go along. Okay, so there's our first round of our granny square. It's a tiny little guy. We're going to add to it. We're going to change color. Okay, so when I change color on a granny square, you can choose any corner, but it needs to be a corner. Okay, so I'm going to choose this corner right here, just in the top right hand side, however that is for you. Okay, put your hook through, take your end, your working yarn of your new color, put that over the hook, just lay it over like you're going to pull it through. Okay, so we've got both loops, or the working yarn and the tail, okay, on the hook. And I'm going to yarn over both of those and pull through. So let me show you that again. Into a corner, put your hook through, lay the yarn over, pull it through, yarn over both of those, the working yarn and the tail, and pull it through the loop on the hook. And then kind of pull those both tight, especially the tail. Okay. Now you can drop the tail and just have your working yarn. Okay, we're going to, you guessed it, chain 3. So round 2 is very similar to round 1, and then we start with a chain 3. And now into this corner, we're going to put 2 more double crochet. 1, 2. And there's our first group of 3. You might want to push those over a little bit, because guess what? This is our new corner. We've got to create a new corner here. So chain 2, and then we're going to put another group of 3 double crochets into this corner. And again, see my green tail? I'm going to work over that. So I'm just kind of putting it on the top here, holding it with my fingers so that it can be worked in as I go. Here's my first, oops, did I forget to yarn over? Oh my, we're making double crochets. Yarn over. There's my first double crochet, 2 double crochets, 3 double crochets. Okay, so that just created a new corner. You can see that. Set of 3, group of 3, chain of 2, group of 3 double crochets. Now we're going to drop that tail now. We're going to go to the next corner. Okay, we're not chaining in between. We're not chaining to get over there. We're just going to put our hook in to the next corner space. Okay, so you see where I did that? Right here. And we're going to make 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. You notice I'm making those double crochets pretty fast, and at this point you should be practicing those double crochets and be really proficient with those if you've been following my lessons and practicing. And you guessed it, it's time to make another corner. So chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me show you what's happening. This is what we're creating. Group of 3, corner, space, group of 3, and then going to the next corner, and the next corner. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to this corner next. So yarn over and make 3 double crochets into your next corner here, space here. There's 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, 3 more double crochets into the same space. 1, 2, 3. And there's our third corner done. Now we're going to move on to our last corner. Double crochets, 3 double crochets into that corner. Chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. Okay, now what do you see that's missing that I usually have? My stitch marker. Now with making granny squares, since we're working in the round and these stitches are pretty tall, it's fairly easy to see where we started. But if I had remembered to put my stitch marker in, which I always recommend doing, it would be right here at the top of my chain. Okay, if you can see. And that stitch can be fairly tight if you're pretty tight with your chains, which I sometimes am. So really, to join our second round here, round 2, I really should be putting my hook underneath this V right here. If the front of the V, the front loop of the V is what you can get your hook up under, it's totally fine, okay? Or if you see your next, the top of your first double crochet, actual double crochet there, you can do that as well, okay? You'll see both ways in crochet tutorials, okay? You don't need to get frustrated about it. You do not want it to go into that space though, okay? You do want it to be in under a V here, the top. You don't want it to be, you don't want to be joining in between your posts, okay? So get your hook up under whatever is most comfortable for you. Okay, I'm going to go to the top of my V, and sometimes you just have to poke it through, you know, give it some pressure and poke it through. Okay, slip, stitch. Okay, so there is round 2 finished, and as you know, we're going to go to round 3 where I'm going to change color again. But if you are using the same color yarn, you can just bloop, fast forward to where I start round 3. So if we're changing color, we need to fasten off this round and fasten off this color. So I'm going to chain 1, pull it long, cut it, remove the working yarn, cinch that tail, get my darning needle. As you can see, that blue tail got, you know, had been worked in, and so I don't need to worry about it. This is the only one. The green tail at first, I can't even tell where it was because I had worked it in. No, it's right there. So when I had started the round, that was where that was. And since I worked it in, I'm just going to snip it off because it already got worked in. If you had not worked over it, then that's going to be sticking out real long where you started. So you'll want to weave that one in as well. But we put it onto our needle, and we're going to go down the post wherever she is, or down the chain, and we want it to be hidden on the back. So if you notice, there's a right side. We've already talked about this in previous lessons. A right side, or the side really facing you as you're working, and then the wrong side, it's called, or the back side. So the front side, right side, back side. And you notice it's much different looking, isn't it? This is the pretty side. Okay, this is the, you know, side you may not want to see. So that's why we want to weave in our tails in along here. So down your chain, and this tube yarn is great, stretchy, but sometimes the needle, even though it's blunt on the end, does want to split it, and you don't want that to happen. So just work underneath till you get down to right here. We don't want to go down into the blue because it will show. We want to stay where it's green, or whatever color you're using. So right here, these corner stitches really hide really well the tail. So we're just gonna weave in under there. I already did down the post once, 2. Now this would be my 3rd one. Now when you go back across, you don't want to go in right where you just came out. You want to maybe skip over one and go in after that and under a few, and that should be enough. Down the post or the chain, under once, under, back, and that is enough. Even though you might have still some sticking out, don't worry about it. Snip it off, cut it off. And let's move to round 3. As you can see, in round 3, I'm going to be using bright orange. When we add color, change color on a granny square, we can choose any corner we want, but it needs to be a corner. Now, as you can see, we've got some sides now that are growing longer, and you'll notice that we've got our 4 corner spaces on round 2, but then there's also these side spaces. Okay, I'll show you how that works in just a minute. So for round 3, we're going to add our new color, which we poke our hook through any corner, lay the yarn over, pull it through, yarn over both of those, the working tail and the working yarn and the tail, and pull it through, Pull those tight, especially the tail. And now we're going to drop the tail, yarn over, chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And into this corner, we're going to do 2 more double crochets to make our first group of 3. Okay, and I'm working over this tail as I go along. Let me get some more yarn so I'm not constantly pulling at it. Okay, there we go. All right. And as you know, we've got to create a new corner. So chain 2. 1, 2. Double crochets into that same space, and it's getting a little tight. You're like, there's not enough space there. There is. Just pull them over. Double crochet. 1. Second double crochet. Third double crochet. So there's our new corner. And so now we're going to drop that. We don't want that orange to show, that tail. I've worked over it, dropping it, meaning put it down behind your work. And now we have a side space. So we do not chain anymore. We're just going to do 3 double crochets into the side space. So 1, notice my little tail is wanting to get in the way. That's why weaving in ends after each round is important, because they'll just be so distracting. There's my second double crochet, and now my third double crochet. Now to the next corner, or second corner. Yarn over and put in 3 double crochets into that corner. 2, 3, and let's make a corner space. So chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into the corner. It's always 3 sets of 3. For the classic granny square, which is what we're learning today. Okay, so as you can see, our side is growing. So for round 3, we've made this corner going up the side. 3 are going to go into the side. 3, chain 2, 3 in each corner. So now we're going to do 3 in the side and keep going around like that. It's really an easy repeating pattern for each round. There's my first double crochet in the side, second crochet, double crochet in the side, third double crochet in the side. Okay, onto my third corner. Double crochets, 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, and now chain 2, because this is a corner. We only do that chain 2 on the corners to make a new corner. Scoot them over a little bit, 3 more double crochets into the corner. I know it might seem like I'm zooming fast, but I'm doing this in real time. And you can always pause the video if you need more time. That's no big deal. All right, 3 into our side. Double crochets, that is. And now our last corner. Here we go, 3 double crochets. Double crochets use a lot of yarn per stitch. That's why I'm constantly having to pull more out from my central ball of yarn here. Okay, and 2 chains to make our corner, our new corner. It's easy to forget that. Now 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. And that will finish our last corner. Now we've got one more side space, so 3 double crochets into that. And now it's time to join back to our beginning. Okay, again, the top of the chain to make a slip stitch, or the top of your first double crochet stitch. Okay, but you need to go underneath those V's. Okay, here we go. Slip stitch as the yarn over, pull through, and then pull through right away. Okay, to join. And there is our third round. Now this is the perfect size for, let's say, a coaster, and I make a lot of my coaster sets with just 3 rounds. You could then fasten off, we're going to weave in, and then you could make 3 more of these just like that, and you would have a little coaster set, 4 little coasters in a coaster set. Or you could make different ones with different color combinations. There's just no end to all the creativity that you could have with granny squares, okay? And so that is what it's looking like. You also maybe could add a border if you wanted to just do single crochets all the way around in your V's, going all the way around. That would create a really fun border. But I'm going to fasten off and weave in my last tail with you. Cinch that. Put the yarn on our darning needle, go down the chain, or down the, I could go down this double crochet post, which sometimes is a little easier than the chain. And I want to get them into, I'm going to go to the back. I'm just going to poke it through to the back because I want to weave in back here underneath those loops once, and then twice, back and forth. And pull that off. And then this was the starting tail that also got worked in. So I'm going to snip that off, snip that off. And there you've made your first little granny square. I'm so proud of you. Good job. Now, guess what? Round 4. Well, if you wanted to go on to another round, the pattern just continues. You want to change color or just keep going? You would make 3 double chain of 3, 2 more double crochets, chain of 2, 3 double crochets, and as it grows, see, instead of 1 side space, we now have 2 side spaces. So you would put 3 double crochets there, 3 double crochets there, and then in each corner, it's a 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and just keep going around. 3 in each side space, 3 and a chain of 2 and another 3 in each corner. So it's a repeating pattern, and the sides just get longer and longer. And if you did round after round, then your sides would just increase. Your sides would have more and more side spaces, which would just be 3 double crochets in each of those. And remembering that your corners have the 2 groups of 3 double crochets with the chain 2 in the middle to create the new corner. And that's really how to do a classic granny square. It's a repeating pattern just like that, groups of 3, using double crochets. Okay, so I recommend, or highly recommend, that you keep practicing, and in this case, practicing means making these cute little granny squares. All right, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Leave any questions in the comments below, and thanks for crocheting along with me today. I'll see you next time.